that's mainly steam pipe bits, but you've got the covers there.
Yep.
Back covers, crossheads.
Steam chest.
Yeah, and cylinder lagging sheets.
Okie doke. This is quite a big assembly job, this cylinders, isn't it?
Yes, and we've got to find the O-rings and the seals and things.
Excellent.
And these are mainly steam pipe connections, so we'll go through that once the cylinders are complete.
You need those studs for the cylinders.
Yeah, that looks like a set of studs there. We'll see what else we come to as we go through.
Yeah, excellent.
Put that to one side.
So where would you start to on the cylinders then?
I think fitting the O-rings to the pistons. The cylinders are not identical. You've got to get them left and right handed. You see how they slope together? And the same with the steam chest, so make sure you get everything the right way around. The piston will be one way or the other, but it's not interchangeable, you've got to get it right. So if you imagine them sitting on the loco, like that, and they're sloping down at the front, so these will be the front covers and the pistons will go in the back here. Let's find the O-rings and we'll get those in. So we've put the O-rings onto the pistons, and now we just need to pop them into the cylinder blocks. I'm going to put a little bit of oil around before we do that, just aids them going in. And make sure we haven't mixed the cylinder blocks up, so they're still in the same side that they're going to work on. So that's the front of the engine, that's the back, and they're left and right handed. Then we come to the steam chests. Now these, although they look similar, they're not identical. They have to go on the right one. So the steam inlet pipe is on the inside of the cylinder. So if you put that one on there, you can see all the angles look wrong.
Oh, I see.
So it's got to be that one on that side, and that one on that side.
Oh, I see. So you keep this parallel.
So it's all looking straight.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But before we fit those, we're going to put the studs in. So we'll just run around putting all these studs in by hand. You can just nip them in. So we're just nipping them up tight with the pliers once they're down in their holes. And if you want, you can put a bit of masking tape around the pliers, but you're not using the middle bit of the thread. So as long as you're gentle with it, it's fine. I think that's all down all right.
Excellent.
So we've got all the studs in. I'm just running round to nip them up, and it's a good tip to make sure they all look about the same length sticking out. If you've got one that's long, it probably means it hasn't gone right into the block properly. So attend to that before you put the steam chests on, otherwise it's a bit too late. Then we can make sure that the steam chests drop on and look correct, so everything's lining up for size. So we're going to fit the steam chest with its sealant. This is like a silicone sealant that goes on. We'll squidge a bit around it.
Yeah, it's actually like a liquid gasket. but it is a high temperature silicon. This one we've got here is black, but I'm thinking I might try and get some transparent stuff as well, but it'll certainly do the job today.
So we can't put the valve in yet, but we're going to seal the steam chest onto the cylinder and just nip it down with a couple of nuts to get the gasket in place. There you go.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and we'll let that go off while we do the covers. Just see how this goes.
Wiping off any excess.
Yeah, we're just using a bit of kitchen roll to clear off the excess. Also make sure there's nothing too much sticking out inside that's going to get in the way of the valve. Right, on with the covers. So we're fitting the front covers. I'm just putting a little bit of silicone round. We've got to make sure we don't get too much in where the steam goes, so that cutout goes by the steam ports. We don't want too much silicone in the cutout, just all around the edge. And it goes with that cutout up on the top there. Line up the holes and pop the bolts in. Right.
It's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think you need to see all of them. I'll just work my way around.
Yep, and I'll do the same with the back one.
Yeah. The back cover goes on with a bit of sealant, and then you got 2 O-rings to drop in before you fit the gland nut. So those just push onto the piston rod like so and go right down inside. You can thread the gland in just to push that O-ring to the bottom and then fit the second one. As always with O-rings, a little spot of oil makes it much easier to get together. So actually we can look at that complete assembly. I'll put a little spot of oil on it. And that runs much more freely. So we're ready to put the sealant on. We're still making sure that we don't get any sealant in where the steamways go, which is that cutout there. I'll just spread it around a bit. Get the cutout and the boss on there at the top. Drop it all in and add the bolts.
Once you tighten up the bolts and the silicone squeezes out, you can just clean everything up. Get rid of it before it all dries.
You can see how freely that cylinder's going up and down now. So that's a good sign.
Excellent.
There's a definite sequence for fitting up the steam and exhaust pipe. These are the various components. Small ones are for the live steam and the larger ones are the exhaust. So we've got one cylinder in place. We run a lock nut onto the short steam pipe and screwed it into the steam chest, just making sure it doesn't come right through. Then we can thread this little gadget, which I've got the wrong way around.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. So when he's on there, when it's in position, it's got that pipe at the top, one at the front for the lubricator and one at the bottom for the sniffing valve. And screw him right on. And then this one also has the lock nut on it, and it goes in and screwed into the fitting as far as it will go. Yeah. Once we've achieved that, we can now go ahead and fit this cylinder. I'll just nip it up with 2 bolts. So this whole assembly can now be threaded back into the other steam chest. And once that's all in place, you should have about equal thread on these two to centralise the fitting. And it ends up like so. So that's the steam inlet, and then the exhaust. Well, we've screwed these as far into the fitting as they'll go with their lock nuts in place. And this is small enough to fit right down in. So I'll just make a start there. But they want to be screwed out about the same distance before they actually start into the threads. So that one's just started, that one's just started.
You're trying to keep it as centralised as possible.
Yes, yes, once you've started them, it's going to stay put.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
good.
it's
I'm
pretty
kind
central.
of doing, just going that way a tiny little bit.
Okay, we'll have to screw it right out a bit. And then, yeah, I think you're not going to do that without, yeah. Just get them more or less central before we start them. So more or less the same gap there and there, and then start them in and check that.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Right.
I'll let you wind them in.
Yeah, I'll do one at
Do
a
my
time.
hands.
Loosen that one off a bit, it's tightening it out. So once they're tightened right into the cylinder block, we run the lock nuts up and hold the adjustment. Right, so we'll do up the lock nuts, and we'll put some sealant on this thread here, although you could do that with another set of lock nuts.
there's a good opportunity now. If this silicone has gone off, you can just take out any excess. You don't want it to stay inside that cylinder block. Just scrape it out.
It's just making sure that valve will drop in and slide to and fro without catching anything. Yep. Next stage is to line up the slide bars. Now they bolt onto the back of the cylinder and onto the motion bracket. And we'll get the bolts in nice and tight at the front before tightening up the back one and the cylinder bolts, because you can see there is still a little bit of play and you want to get that aligned before you nip those bolts up.
Okay, so slide bars on both sides and then do the cylinders?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.
And the next item is the crossheads and slide bars. So we've got a crosshead, 2 slippers and the slide bar, and we've run a lock nut up on the thread on the piston rod. We'll start off by getting the crosshead started. Now, because I've run that nut up fairly tight, I can just work it into the crosshead about halfway down the thread. We'll have to do the final adjustment when we've got all the rods on, but at least this will get it started. And then the slippers go in, one on the bottom and one on the top. I should be able to just run the slide bar between the two. There we go. And then it'll bolt on solidly there, get that one up nice and tight, and then finally tighten the cylinders in place. And you know you've got the alignment.
Okay.
So these 2 bolts, this one's threaded into the end of the slide bar. That one's got a clearance hole. M4 10mm long, M4 8mm long. So this one's flush, doesn't get in the way of anything underneath the slide bars.
So once this is all tightened up, that will pull all of this nice and square, will it?
Yes, and then we can finally tighten the bolts holding the cylinders in place.
Excellent.
So we've turned the chassis over. We're going to fit the cylinder drains and the anti-vacuum valve. But before we can fit the drains, we need to put the cylinder covers on. Now these are handed. They're shaped along the top, so they need to be on the right sides. And they've got little hexagon bolts to hold them on. These are the painted ones, so they're already in body colour. Just get those set. And then the cylinder drains themselves, we've pre-assembled these. So they've got a little lock nut which goes on first. And then they screw into the bottom of the cylinders. you can point them either forward or backward. Personally, I prefer them pointing slightly forwards.
And lock them into position with that nut.
Yeah, they've got a lock nut there. You can tighten up to hold them in the right spot,
Excellent.
which will be there. Yeah, that's pretty good. And actually, I've got that one. Got them pointing towards each other. I think it'd be better to have them pointing forwards. We can slightly bias them out. There we go. And then the snifting valve, which is that, that little fitting with a 4mm ball and an end cap. And that then screws on the bottom of this steam connector. And that's the anti-vacuum valve. So when the cylinders are pulling a vacuum, it opens up and lets the air in.
Okay.